Now, I know you all are probably going to think that I'm nuts, probably crazy, and maybe I am, but you all know that I'm into using whatever I can find around the house to add some texture to my art. And I was cleaning out my closet today, and I happened to pick up a pair of shoes that was laying upside down on the floor, and I noticed that they had a really, really cool texture on the bottom. So I decided I was going to try to see what these would look like if I were to stamp them down. And so I went through my closet and I gathered up as many shoes as I could that had interesting patterns on the bottom. I was really surprised by what I found. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try stamping these down and see if they're going to be useful. Now, of course, I would not recommend this with shoes that you're going to use right away or that you really, really, really love. I'm going to be using black tempera paint to stamp down, and maybe my permanent ink pad. And of course, I'm going to wash off the bottoms of the shoes right away after I'm done filming, so I don't leave anything on the shoes that could get on the floor. So, do attempt this at your own risk, but I thought it would be kind of fun. So let's do that. I just have some plain copy paper that we buy, by the box full at the office supply store. I have a couple of foam brushes, and I'm going to use some very inexpensive washable tempera. This is black. This happens to be Crayola brand, but there's lots of them out there. You want washable because if you do get it on your fabrics, it will come off. And that's it. So let's get started. I'm going to just put a little bit of this paint on this extra piece of paper here. Now, I think we need to be kind of careful that we don't overdo it. And since I haven't tried this before, we're just going to experiment. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is see what happens if I lightly brush. This has ridges that come out. Hopefully you can see that. Has ridges that come out, so I'm just going to lightly brush over these and stamp down and see what we get. That is pretty neat. Maybe we could use a little more paint. Well, that's pretty cool. Now this is probably deep enough that I could have tried dipping it directly in the paint, and so let's try to do that. I'm spreading it a little bit thinly on this extra piece of paper here because we don't need a whole bunch of paint to do this. So let's see what we get. Wow. I could definitely see this on an art journal page. Okay, let's see what else we have here. A pair of ballet flats. Not sure how this will come out. This seems a little, it's not really rubber, it's kind of felty. But let's just see what happens if I dip this in the paint. I'm going to need more, I can tell. Got one pattern here on the heel and then another here at the toe. So let's just see what we get. Dip very carefully here. Oh, like that. Pretty cool. So I'm just going to stamp this a couple times and get as much of this off as I can, and then maybe blot it here. Very cool. Here's one of my tennis shoes, walking shoes actually. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to rub this over. If you have a white carpet, you might want to think twice. I do have a white Berber carpet here in my studio, but it's covered up with a throw rug, so hopefully I'll be lucky. And ooh, look at that, got my shoelace in there. Ugh. Okay, that's a lesson learned. Not bad. I'm going to grab a baby wipe. Here's a really cool little pattern here. That's got some ridges on it, so I should be able to dip this one right in the paint. It may look like I'm putting a lot of paint on here, but I'm really not. Spreading it pretty thin. Well, it definitely looks like a shoe there, huh? That's kind of cool, though. Can you see that on an art journal page? Look at this. Some more flats. Flats are going to work better for this, I think, than heels. This one's rubber, so I'm going to put this paint right on here. Just on the toe this time. Let's see what we get. Ooh, looks like an eye. That's really cool. That looks like an eye. I like that. Okay. Now these are like little tiny wedgy heels, and this actually has flowers in it. Interesting. So this is going to work more like a stamp would, I think. Here's a slip-on running around tennis shoe. I use 2 brushes here. Yes, I have. Now, of course, I'm using the black paint, but if you were actually going to try this in your art journal or, you know, on a art page, you could just, you know, you can use any color paint you want. I am probably going to turn these into brushes that are going to end up in my digital shop. So I'm using the black because it'll scan well. Look at that. You'd pay good money for a stencil that looked like this. Who knew? Okay, this has got some neat bumps and ridges. So this again is going to work like a stamp. This time I'm going to tuck these shoelaces in there though. Now I wear a size 5, so it's probably going to fit pretty well on this right here. Very cool. Here's a sort of a loafer, and it's got some nice squares on it. Let's see what we get. Not only did that have squares, you can even see this, it actually even has little grids inside the squares, which is equally very cool. Here's an old sort of Converse tenny of mine. It has these really nice diamond patterns here. Probably need some more. Like anything else, the more the paint, the runnier or juicier your impression's going to be. So you may not like the first one, but you can come up with some pretty interesting shapes. And this one might be a little problematic. It's got this really neat design, but it's not etched in very deep. Pair of sandals. So let's see what we get. I'm liking that too. just a couple more pair here. Here's a pair of Clarks. My husband saw me doing these with my Clarks. He'd have a fit. It's got this sort of nice swirly kind of pattern on it. Clarks are not the cheapest shoes you can buy. My hands off that inside there. Dang. Here's another pair of Clarks. It's got these ridges, so this is not going to pick up paint, so that obviously the stamp is going to be all around the outside. Oh, that's really neat texture. Really nice. Old pair of sandals I haven't worn in a while because they're very dusty. And these are a little bit worn, so I'm not sure how this is going to work. Let's just try this back end here. Diamonds again. Maybe brush it. What did you do today, Vicki? Well, I put paint on the bottom of my shoes and then stamped them down. Used them as stamps. Okay, last one. Another walking shoe. Nice grid pattern. Some holes in it. Let's see what happens. A little tiny bit more paint. Very, very neat. Okay, so there you have it. If you're really looking for some interesting and unusual textures that you can be assured nobody else is going to have, try looking at the bottom of your shoes. And next time you're out shoe shopping, be sure to check out the bottoms of those shoes before you buy them. And who knows, you may just be able to justify your shoes as serving two purposes.
Thanks for watching, and be sure and stop by my blog and let me know if you've tried anything this wild and crazy. See you next time.